Hello and welcome to today's webinar, which is on arson investigation techniques, detecting and examining evidence following a fire. To simplify proceedings, guests are muted. Please use the chat box to ask any questions, and all questions will be answered at the end in our live Q&A session. Last summer, you may have seen that we ran a webinar focused on arson and fire scene investigation, and we found that was really well received. We had some great feedback and plenty of questions on the subject to make us think that perhaps we should perform another webinar in this area. So, having set fire to another bag full of evidence, here we are ready to demonstrate once again some of the latest and most effective forensic arson investigation techniques. Arson remains the largest single cause of fire in England and Wales, accounting for almost 50% of all fires attended by fire crews. In 2017-2018, fire crews attended 167,291 fires in England. 80,610 of these were started deliberately, resulting in 161 deaths. In data published by the National Fire Chiefs Council, it was estimated that arson costs the economy a staggering $11 billion annually. The loss of life, paired with the huge economic cost of arson, means that reduction of arson is an important strategic interest for police forces worldwide. Obviously, in order to reduce cases of arson, early intervention must take place to prevent fires from being started. However, not every fire can be prevented, so it's important that when a deliberate fire does occur, we are able to successfully identify and prosecute the perpetrators, and in doing so create a strong future deterrent for other individuals. However, fire scene examiners will be all too aware that investigating cases of arson can be fraught with difficulty. By their very nature, fires are destructive, spreading and consuming evidence as they grow. In fact, many fires are started with the intention of destroying evidence. Furthermore, the actual process of putting out fires with huge quantities of water can further reduce our chances of locating useful evidence. But despite this, valuable evidence can still be retrieved. Upon entering a fire scene, an investigator may typically use a powerful white light to assist the initial search. Using a tool like the Crime Light Auto, the investigator will be able to conduct the search across multiple wavelengths. Then they may even choose to record the entire process and perhaps communicate any images they take back to the incident room via the Auto's Wi-Fi link. Prior to this webinar, Foster & Freeman had the privilege of visiting Gardner Associates Training and Research, or GATR as they are known. They are Europe's largest provider of interagency fire investigation training to police and fire authorities. From its launch in 1996, Gardner Associates have assembled one of the most experienced and knowledgeable multidisciplinary team of practitioners who are amongst the best in their category. Amongst this visit, we were able to capture live footage of fire scenes. So let's take a look.
Hello, I'm Mick Conlon. I work for Gardeners Associate Training and Research. This is one of our fire scenes. We've actually set fire to this approximately 2 hours ago. The scenario is, this is a child's bedroom. The child has had some issues in the past and is looking for a bit of a cry for help. So what she's done is she started to light just a few small fires to gather attention. But this one she couldn't put out in time, it got out of control. So as you can see from over there by underneath the window is where the fire actually started in a waste paper bin. The fire's obviously then spread up through the curtains. The curtains have dropped down and onto the shelving and onto all the plastic toys. Due to the contents of the room, as you can see, the fire's then gone up and gone across to the other wall, and then it's affected the other side of the room. Again, the curtains have caught on fire and they have then dropped to the floor, and as a result of that you can start to see all the fire and the smoke around this area as well. This fire never reached flashover, and as you can see the carpet and everything at this end of the room is still pretty much intact. You can also have a look inside the wardrobe just to show what kind of protection is there for these clothes when doors and windows are shut to help the occupants.
Items of evidence detected at a fire scene may include incendiary devices such as lighters or matches, the presence of ignitable liquids or accelerants, perhaps also indications of forced entry. There could also be trace evidence, so hairs, fibres, finger marks, blood and other body fluids. Potentially we may have evidence of other crimes in addition to the possible arson. So there may be weapons, there may be human remains, or perhaps maybe even drugs or the remains of a clandestine drug laboratory equipment. Let's start by looking at the items that may have been used to start a fire. Incendiary devices such as lighters or matches. Where there are splashes of petrol or lighter fluid or perhaps another form of liquid accelerant on a suspect's clothing, this could prove to be valuable corroborating evidence. Whilst many common liquid accelerants are clear and practically invisible when soaked into the fabric, we can often use the different wavelengths on a crime light to reveal what the eye cannot see. At the scene, the examiner may use handheld light sources or a device such as the Crime Light Auto to search for accelerants. Back at the lab, a screening tool such as the Crime Light MLF Pro could be used to quickly identify traces of accelerant on items or clothing from the suspect. Many common liquid accelerants can be revealed by the fluorescence which they emit when they are subjected to intense narrowband illumination, either in the blue-green or under green wavelengths. As the fluorescence of these liquids is very weak, it is essential that examiners employ a powerful light source and the appropriate filter goggles or camera filters. Here at Foster & Freeman we use anti-glare coated Pro Vision lenses to make certain that no trace is missed and to ensure the best possible image during photography. A fluorescent light source or all-in-one illumination and imaging device can also be used to reveal traces of physical evidence at the crime scene. Using lights in the very low end of the spectrum, so UV, violet, blue, blue-green, we can reveal items including fragments of bone or teeth, which will fluoresce brightly against the typically dull soot and ash coating the environment of a fire scene. While it can hide traces of evidence, the presence of a thick layer of soot at a fire scene may also benefit the examiner by providing a protective coating under which finger marks may remain undamaged by the fire. One of the other evidence types which you may come across in an arson scene, particularly in an arson scene with human remains, is bone or teeth fragments. Now here we're just using a white light on our fragments at the moment on our Crime Light X serology. So the Crime Light X serology is one of our newest crime lights and features 5 different wavelengths of light, including the white light seen here. We can also cycle through the light sources, and we have UV through the violet, blue and blue-green. Now, bone and teeth will naturally fluoresce under different wavelengths of light, and the crime light X serology is perfect for searching for bones and teeth. Here we're using a blue light source, which is inducing the fluorescence. And this may make it easier if you're having to search crime scenes for human remains to actually visualise and find this type of evidence. The ML Pro is a brand new light source designed for laboratory use. It contains a range of wavelengths of light, from white light, UV, through the visible and into the infrared, so it gives you full spectrum analysis. In this example, we're going to have a look at some accelerants on fabric. Here, as we move through the white light, we cannot see any signs of accelerants on the evidence. One of the features of the ML Pro is it allows you to perform a full scan across the spectrum. So we'll start with the white light, moving through the UV, the visible and the infrared. This then leaves us with 8 different images, which we can review and move through using the intuitive touchscreen interface. We can also create comparison images. So here we have the original white light image and evidence of the accelerants, now visible under a blue wavelength. These images can be saved, and the individual images or the combined images can be taken off for further review. Here in this second example, we have another example of accelerants, this time diesel on a red t-shirt. Here in the white light, we're struggling to find any trace of the accelerant as we move across the shirt. Now, accelerants can be most commonly found either with a blue-green, or a green light source. But here we're still struggling to find this accelerant. If we move into a red light source, we can actually start to see traces of the accelerant on the shirt. This shows why it's so important to have a range of light sources at your disposal. We can capture an image. If we also, on the software, go back into the white light, we can take a full overview image of the entire shirt. And then one of the best features of the ML Pro software is the ability to create a report. Here we have our overview image. We have our individual captures. And we can place our individual captures on top of the overview exactly where the stain has been found. We fill in a case name, a username, an exhibit name, and then we can save our report. This report will feature all of our case details at the top, our overview image with our individual sample image. And then at the base, you will have all of your individual sample images, including the lighting and the filter, which have been used to take this image. This report can then be taken off the MLF Pro software and placed into the case file, ready for review. So here we have our DCS5 system. This is our system for imaging finger marks and other types of evidence. But today we're going to use it to have a look at some pieces of evidence that have come from a burnt crime scene. In this first example, we're going to show you a knife under what we term coaxial illumination. So we use coaxial illumination when you have reflective surfaces, when you have kind of metal surfaces like this, which may be reflective, and shining a simple white light onto the evidence will just come back up into the camera and we won't be able to see our evidence. Now, coaxial illumination removes a lot of that reflection and glare from the sample. Now here with the sample, we're just going to make some adjustments to our exposure. And we can see here, we have the slight outline of a finger mark on this knife. Now, what we can also do is one of the options is you have full spectrum analysis on the DCS5. So we can use white light, but we can also use a range of colours from the UV through the visible and even into the infrared. Here I'm actually going to use a process of colour contrast imaging. So I'm actually going to use different colours of light to try and improve the contrast. Let's take a preview image of our knife, and we can see we've used coaxial illumination to remove that glare, but we've also used colour contrast imaging to further improve that finger mark, even showing some small pore level details here visible. For our second example, we have another piece of metal that has been recovered from the arson scene. And it's important to consider as well the different treatments that can be used for metals in particular. Here at Foster & Freeman, we also have our Recover LFT technology, which allows you to recover finger marks off metals even when they've been subjected to high temperatures, such as those as in an arson scene, or even when it's been submerged in water. Now here with the DCS, I'm actually using a technique called reflective UV. Now, reflective UV works really well with cyanoacrylate marks. It works well sometimes with latent finger marks, but it's also really useful for recover finger marks as well. Now here simply, we're just using a special lens, a special bandpass filter, and a Crime Light 82S UV light source. And here we can see on top of this piece of metal, we can actually start to see a partial finger mark. Now with reflective UV, it's important to get the right angle and the right intensity of light. Once we're happy with the image, we take a preview, and then we can start to see our partial finger mark which has developed. For the final object that we're going to look at, we're going to have a look at actually a glass bottle that's been recovered from this arson scene. And at the base of the bottle, we can actually start to see a finger mark developing. This is just in simple white light at the moment, but we're going to try and improve this with other non-visible techniques. So we're going to move into the near infrared part of the spectrum, adjust the angle of light, and there we have our finger mark. We take a capture, a preview, And there is our partial finger mark on the base of this glass bottle. In cases where finger marks have not been protected by soot or ash, there is still a good chance of revealing identifiable prints by returning metal-based evidence to the laboratory for treatment using the recover technique. Usually when we are looking for finger marks, perhaps staining or applying powder to a mark, we are attempting to visualise the physical presence of fingerprint deposits made up of sweat or natural skin oils. The recover technique doesn't rely on physical traces being present on the subject and is capable of developing high quality marks, even after all biological trace of the mark has been removed. The unique chemical process of recover actually develops finger marks on the deposit sites where the finger marks previously were. A chemical reaction between the finger mark and the metal causes the near invisible corrosion to occur on the metal surface. The recover chemical adheres to this abrasion to reveal the ridge detail. You may have seen in our previous Arson webinar we did have some fun testing out just how effective the recover process can be when treating evidence that has been subjected to intense heat. Whilst some of the marks that were found in that demonstration were visible to the naked eye after being fumed with recover, we would always recommend using the best available imaging system. In cases where marks are only faintly visible or perhaps not visible at all, the DCS5 finger mark workstation, with its associated lighting attachments, is capable of revealing finger marks of incredible quality, making it quite possibly the most important single piece of equipment in the fingerprint examiner's arsenal. But also the same rules apply when examining and photographing finger marks at the scene. And for this very reason, we've come up with the CrimeLight Auto, a powerful handheld device capable of capturing laboratory quality images, but directly at the crime scene. Most recently, we have added to this CrimeLight Auto system a coaxial illumination attachment. This is actually patented technology which is unique to Foster and Freeman, and this can help to further improve the quality of images of latent marks, something that would be of huge benefit to anyone photographing marks that have been protected by a layer of soot or ash. So as you have seen today, using a combination of CrimeLight forensic light sources to detect hidden evidence and the recover system to reveal impossible finger marks, we can actually go a long way towards discovering the cause of a fire, perhaps through the detection of accelerants, but we may even be able to identify the person responsible for starting the fire through the detection of their finger marks at the scene. In either case, the use of modern forensic technology is essential. So thank you for watching. If you have any questions, please do let us know now.